Most parts of the ocean follow a pattern. Winds rise and fall, waves build and settle, and coastlines interrupt the system just enough to keep things predictable. The Drake Passage doesn't follow those rules. It sits between the southern tip of South America and Antarctica, and on a map it looks simple, just a stretch of water connecting two massive oceans. But in reality, it's one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. Not because it's always violent, but because when it becomes violent, there is nothing in the way to stop it. That is what makes the Drake Passage the most dangerous sea passage in the world. To understand why, you have to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because the danger here doesn't come from one thing. It comes from multiple forces stacking on top of each other all at once without interruption. Far south, circling Antarctica, there is a current unlike any other on the planet. The Antarctic Circumpolar Current doesn't stop, doesn't turn, and doesn't weaken as it moves. It travels endlessly from west to east, carrying an enormous volume of water with it. Unlike other ocean currents, it doesn't crash into continents or get redirected by land. It just keeps going, building momentum across thousands of kilometers of open ocean. By the time that water reaches the Drake Passage, it isn't calm or controlled. It's already moving with energy that has been building for days, sometimes weeks. Now, take that moving system and compress it into a narrower space between two landmasses that almost touch. That is exactly what happens in the Drake Passage. The current is forced through this gap, and when something that powerful is squeezed into a smaller area, it speeds up. Water accelerates, surface movement becomes unstable, and everything above it begins to react. But the current alone isn't what makes this place dangerous. It's what happens when wind enters the picture. The Drake Passage sits in a region of the world where wind doesn't just blow, it travels. These latitudes, often called the Roaring Forties and the Furious Fifties, earned their names long before modern forecasting existed, and they earned them for a reason. Wind in this region can circle the entire planet without hitting land. It builds strength as it moves, gathering energy across huge distances, and when it reaches the Drake Passage, it doesn't arrive gently. It arrives already powerful. When that wind meets a fast-moving current, the ocean doesn't stay organized. It becomes chaotic. Waves begin to form from different sources at the same time. Some come from distant storms, long rolling swells that have traveled thousands of kilometers. Others are created locally by fresh winds pushing directly against the surface. These waves don't align neatly. They cross over each other, collide at different angles, and move at different speeds. The result is not a steady rhythm, but a constantly shifting surface that a ship cannot easily predict. And that unpredictability is where the real danger begins. Ships are designed to handle large waves, but they rely on some level of consistency. When waves move in patterns, a vessel can adjust, stabilize, and maintain control. But in the Drake Passage, patterns break down. Movement becomes irregular. Timing disappears. A ship may rise on one wave and be hit from the side by another, or drop unexpectedly into a trough that didn't exist seconds before. Control becomes harder to maintain, and when control starts to slip, even experienced crews are pushed to their limits. Wave height is often used to describe the danger here, but the numbers don't tell the full story. Yes, waves in the Drake Passage regularly exceed 30 feet, and in stronger conditions they can reach well beyond that. But it's not just the height that matters, it's the behavior. At times, multiple wave systems combine to form what is known as a rogue wave, a single, much larger wave that rises suddenly out of nowhere. There is no warning, no gradual buildup, just a wall of water where moments before there was none. Even modern ships can be caught off guard by these events because they don't follow predictable patterns. Depth adds another layer to this environment. In many coastal regions, waves lose energy as they approach shallow water. The seabed acts as a brake, reducing their power before they reach land. But the Drake Passage is deep, in many places over 4,000 meters. There is nothing to slow the waves down. They travel long distances without braking, maintaining their full strength until they encounter an obstacle. And sometimes, that obstacle is a ship. Beneath the surface, the seafloor is not smooth or uniform. There are underwater ridges and irregular features that disturb the flow of the current. These disruptions don't stop the water, but they do change how it moves, creating turbulence and shifting patterns that can alter surface conditions in seconds. What looks manageable one moment can become unstable the next, without any obvious warning. Temperature makes everything more severe. The water in the Drake Passage sits close to freezing, and the air above it often isn't much warmer. When waves break over a ship, the spray can freeze almost instantly, coating decks in ice and making movement difficult. Equipment becomes harder to operate, and simple tasks take longer. If someone falls into the water, the situation becomes critical immediately. Hypothermia begins within minutes, and survival time is extremely limited. This is not a place where rescue can be delayed. But rescue itself is another challenge. The Drake Passage is remote. There are no nearby ports, no quick access to assistance, and no easy way to reach a vessel in trouble. Even with modern technology, help can take a long time to arrive. This isolation has been part of the passage's danger for centuries. In earlier times, it was even more severe. Ships that entered these waters relied on basic navigation methods, estimating their position based on direction and speed. There were no accurate maps, no reliable forecasts, and no communication systems to call for help. If a ship disappeared, it often disappeared completely, leaving no trace behind. As more vessels began using this route, especially during the age of sail, losses increased. Merchant ships, naval vessels, and whaling fleets all passed through the same region, facing the same conditions. Many made it through. Many did not. Some were destroyed by storms before even reaching the passage, caught in the violent weather systems that form around Cape Horn. Others entered the passage itself and never returned. The ocean did not leave evidence, only absence. Cold water, strong currents, and constant motion meant that wreckage was rarely recovered, and stories were often lost with the ships themselves. Ice adds yet another risk. Large icebergs break away from Antarctica and drift north into the Drake Passage. Some are massive and clearly visible, but others are smaller and harder to detect. These smaller pieces can sit low in the water, hidden between waves, especially in rough conditions. A ship may not see them until it is too late. Even today, with radar and advanced detection systems, ice remains a concern, particularly when visibility is poor. Weather in the Drake Passage is not just harsh, it is unpredictable. Conditions can change rapidly as pressure systems move around Antarctica. A calm sea can become rough in a matter of hours, sometimes less. Sailors often describe this contrast using two simple terms, the Drake Lake and the Drake Shake. The same location can feel completely different depending on the conditions. One moment, the ocean appears calm and manageable, with low swell and steady skies. The next, wind builds, waves rise, and the passage becomes chaotic. This sudden shift is part of what makes the Drake Passage so difficult to navigate. It doesn't always give time to prepare. Once a ship commits to crossing, there are no alternative routes. There is no sheltered coastline to follow, no safe harbor to retreat into. It is open ocean in every direction, and the only way through is forward. That lack of options increases the risk because decisions must be made quickly, and there is little room for error. Modern ships are stronger, better equipped, and supported by advanced forecasting systems, but the fundamental challenges of the Drake Passage remain the same. Wind still travels without interruption, currents still move with immense force, and the ocean still behaves in ways that are difficult to predict. Technology has improved survival, but it has not eliminated risk. Even today, large vessels crossing the Drake Passage can encounter conditions that test their limits. A single powerful wave can cause damage, injure passengers, or disrupt operations. The passage does not need days of continuous storms to be dangerous. Sometimes, it takes only a brief moment of extreme conditions to remind crews how little control they truly have. That is what separates the Drake Passage from other parts of the ocean. It is not just rough, it is complex. It is a place where multiple powerful systems meet, overlap, and interact in ways that amplify each other. Wind, current, depth, temperature, and isolation all combine, not gradually, but simultaneously. There is no single cause of danger here, only the accumulation of factors that together create one of the harshest marine environments on the planet. And yet, despite all of this, ships continue to cross it. Research vessels, cargo ships, and expedition cruises all pass through these waters, relying on planning, experience, and modern technology to reduce risk. Many crossings are uneventful, some are even calm, but the potential for danger is always there, built into the nature of the passage itself. The Drake Passage does not guarantee difficulty, and it does not guarantee safety. It exists in a constant state of possibility, where conditions can remain manageable or escalate without warning. That uncertainty is what defines it. It is not simply a dangerous place because of how it looks, but because of how it behaves. It is shaped by motion rather than geography, by forces that do not stop or slow down. There are no barriers to absorb energy, no land to interrupt flow, and no easy way out once a ship is inside. Everything that builds in the Southern Ocean eventually passes through this narrow space, and when it does, it intensifies. That is why the Drake Passage stands apart from every other sea route on Earth. Not because it is always the worst, but because when it becomes the worst, there is nothing to contain it. No protection, no interruption, and no second chance. Only open water and the full force of the ocean, moving through one of the most exposed passages on the planet.